Act. Right? They have a new legislation, particularly referring to the insurance in terms of retail customers. Right? So I think across jurisdictions, the concern is for the retail customers. All right, and the retail customers are being taken advantage of by financial advisor representatives. All right, who give advice that are not professional and recommend products that are not suitable. In other words, clients are taken for a ride. Right? So there's a big concern there across jurisdictions in relation to banking and financial advisory services in general. Okay? So there must be a strong culture of fair dealing, where representatives conduct proper fact-find and needs analysis and provide clients with quality advice and appropriate recommendation. All right, the standards have been raised and will continue to be raised. All right, in order to make sure that this particular industry is a professional, fully professional. All right. So just run your eyes down paragraph 50, 25, 26, 27, and these are all the pre-transaction checks by supervisors. Okay, so those are the things. And you cast your eye and then across the page from paragraph 29 all the way to paragraph 33, that talks about the what the supervisor and the non-sales staff or the third-party provider should do or should not do, right? So there are similar issues to what we have discussed earlier in the other chapters, right? All right, just for completeness sake, you look at just paragraph 33. All right, financial advisors should keep records of these processes and methods. And that's what the aforesaid paragraphs are talking about. And every assessment and determination made for pre-transaction checks, I emphasize that one, pre-transaction checks, under or in relation to the balanced scorecard framework for a period of not less than 5 years, right? So not only must you do all those processes and methods and how to go about advising clients properly, you need to document, you need to keep proper records of the whole process, of the whole sales process, right? From sales and advisory process, and also from closing the deal, so that any allegations of churning or switching products which are detrimental to the client, then at least there's something on record, all right? To defend the financial advisor representative or the supervisor or the financial advisor corporation itself, right? Now, very quickly then, we look at Annex 1, and you can see that guidance for documentation reviews, all right? So they provide the notice and the guidelines here. The guidelines here provide the guidance for documentation reviews, right? So it's quite, it's a checking of the boxes. The non-sales KPI 1, understanding a client's needs. So again, you can look at it on your own. Did the representative document all of a client's personal particulars, name, age, date of birth, qualification, etc.? This is a fact-finding thing. Answer yes and no, all right, or not applicable. So the financial advisor representative has to do that, and the supervisor has to make sure that that has been done, right? Then the next line, there you can see the representative document the following client information, right? Financial objectives, protection, investment, savings, health needs, time horizon, right? It's pretty detailed. So yes, no, not applicable. Right? Risk tolerance or profile, occupation, employment, status, financial situation, assets, liabilities, cash flow, annual income, net worth, etc. Right? Source and amount of regular income, right? Is it a steady income, or is it a income that depends on sales, right? Or irregular income, like a salesperson, right? Selling maybe say real estate agent or remiser, right? A self-employed person where the income may not be regular, right? Any financial commitment, any outstanding mortgage to a HDB flat or to a condominium or to a landed property, any car installment payment, right, and so on. Right, any children overseas or going overseas for education. So the financial commitments are there, right? Current investment portfolio, including life policies and collective investment scheme. Right? This is to see whether that person has experience or not in these products. And generally, what kind of investments this person has. And any recommendation in terms of life policy, number of dependents, extent and duration of financial support, how many children, right, and so forth. Right? So where the client has a joint investment application with another investor, did the representative conduct the CKA for both the client and the investor? So both must be done in terms of a CKA under the relevant product group. Right? So if all the information referred above is not collected, answer no, or not applicable, is there a valid reason? Right? Give the reason. So this is the understanding a client's needs. The normal fact-find things that normally financial advisor representative will have to do, right? Right, then non-sales KPI 2, suitability of product recommendations. Again, I do not intend to go through every one, so you can look at it and ask yourself that question, all right? So suitability, right? So again, same thing, risk profiling, basis for recommendation, and whether the recommendation meet the objectives of the client, and whether the client can afford it, all right, and whether the client can take on the risk, right, in terms of the product, and whether it matches the client's risk profile, right? And then for selected clients only, all right, so if you look at the bottom there, they're asking whether there's a file note, call log, or documentation annotation on the client callback by the supervisor, all right? So this one depends on a case-to-case basis, all right? So whether closer scrutiny is required in relation to client callback by the supervisor, in particular whether a person is an elderly person, CPF is involved and that kind of thing, right? Okay. Now, very quickly then, non-sales KPI 3, adequacy of information disclosure. There's a long list there on that page. All right, again, it's checking in the boxes, yes, no, they're not applicable. All right, so you look down the page there, you'll see under A to L, IGKL, right? So again, yes, no, check the boxes. Right? And quickly then, the last bit then, non-sales KPI 4, standards of professionalism and ethical conduct in relation to the provision of the services. All right, so based on documentation review, is there any indication that representative conducted himself unprofessionally, unethically, right? Churning, not sufficient information, no clear explanation, and all that, right? So it must be professional, it must be ethical. Right? And then they give an example there. Is there any indication that documents may have been tampered with, right? Use of correction pens on material information, and correction made has not been acknowledged by the client. All right, so the client submits some information, and then there's been some cancellation, some liquid paper put over, and then so forth. So has the information been tampered with in any way? All right, now this boils down to unethical conduct. If that has been done without the client's knowledge or without the client's signing against the correction or the cancellation or whatever, right? Right, so that is in relation to the KPIs, the 4 KPIs, right? Now then very quickly, Annex 2 talks about guidance for client surveys. All right, here they provide you the guideline on how to do the client survey, right? Non-sales KPI 1, understand the client's needs. So again, it's a checking box, yes, no, cannot recall others, right? I just pause for a while, you take a look at that page, right? So did the representative ask you questions in order to understand your financial situation and investment objectives, risk appetite, etc. before recommending investment product? Yes, no. So the client has to tick this, right? And if the client say no, then, well, it doesn't look well on the financial advisor representative, right? Because you're supposed to and you're required to ensure that the client understand the financial situation and so on, right? You got to ask questions in order to understand the client's financial situation, investment objective, and risk appetite. All right. So this is an essential know your client process, right? So then, 2, was there any instance, all right, where you felt that your representatives influenced you? I talk about undue influence, trying to persuade you, overselling, to provide an answer or influence you to modify your original answer to an answer that you're uncomfortable with, as it is inaccurate or does not represent your intention, right? So again, this is boiling down to not doing the work properly. Right? And if there's any such influence, then how the representatives influence you, right? Did the financial advisor intimidate you, all right, and so forth, right? And frighten you or caution you or put in the mind of fear or and so on, so that you buy the product in terms of the client, right? So again, there are a lot of things that can be said in terms of influencing a client's decision. Particularly when we're talking about inverted commas, a vulnerable client, right? Doesn't speak English, doesn't read English, right? Then the literacy level is low, O level or N level, right? So, and then financial literacy is also very low. So these are the clients that, the retail clients that one has to be very careful. Right, so that's that. And then end of the day, the guidance for client survey is non-sales KPI 2. Again, the same thing. Right, 3 in particular, did you understand or represent explanations as to why an investment product is suitable for you? So you need to explain to the client, right? Especially when we're talking about a structured deposit or a dual currency investment or a life policy with an underlying investment product, which may be sophisticated, your ILPs, your investment in policies. Okay, so then the KPI 3 is similar, all right? So, and then you can see the next page there, structured deposit, ILP, unit trust, bonds, structured notes, right? So you can see for yourself, very, very specific. All right. So if you are advising or recommending a structured deposit, that's what you must do. And the client is supposed to feedback, right? And then insurance, unit trust, bonds, structured notes. Okay. Now then KPI 4, standards of professionalism and ethical conduct. That's question 5 there. So the client has to feedback. All right. So were there any aspects of the sales process that you were dissatisfied with? Yes, no, right? Okay, and then of course as a note, the ISA unit has reason to believe that there may be a potential infraction, all right, either 1 or 2, Cat 1 or Cat 2, in relation to a sampled transaction. ISA may consider asking more specific questions. An example, were you asked to sign blank forms or incomplete forms? All right, now that means not professional and unethical, right? One financial advisor representative cannot ask a client to sign a blank form or to sign an incomplete form. All right? Or when you're asked to sell part of your current investment portfolio and purchase another investment product, that means switching, without a clear explanation from a representative on the basis for so doing. Right? As you will recall, if you ask a client, if a financial advisor representative were to ask a client to switch, these financial advisors must fully comply with the applicable law, rules, and regulations governing switching, all right, which we have gone through in the notice and also in the guidelines. Right? So switching is a concern, churning is a concern, and therefore that can amount to unethical conduct, unprofessionalism in this respect. Okay. Then very quickly we talk about examples of Category 1 infractions. Now in the earlier notice provision, there there isn't such details, all right? So here in the guideline Annex 3, they give you more details as to the examples of a Cat 1 infraction. Right? Right? And Cat 1 infraction is the information collected by the representative was insufficient to enable the representative to have a good understanding of a client's profile, risk appetite, financial objective, investment product recommended by the representative was not suitable for the client. Right? They set up the scenarios there, A to F. Right? Right? So you cast your eye down the page, you look down the page, you can see the examples or the scenarios given under this Annex 3 guideline for you to have a fair understanding of what is meant by a Category 1 infraction. Okay? Now then you look at example 2, that is in terms of your KPI 2, right? The next page there. And again, it gives some scenarios under A, B, C, D, E to all the way to I, right? Right. So there are some of the examples there. In practice, they have collected, all right, and then they set out the scenarios for you to understand. Then example 3 in terms of KPI 3, right, and then scenarios are the same, A to D, right. And similarly, under KPIs 3 and 4, they give you again some scenarios from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Right? And then lastly, KPI 4, in terms of ethical conduct, fit and proper, honesty, integrity, and reputation. They give you scenarios from A all the way to F. Right? Right? And that's to point out one point under this particular scenario F. That covers the thing. A representative misrepresented to a retiree, right? Retiree old person, illiterate, right? This guy is illiterate either in language or in financial literacy. Then equity fund, you know equity, right? Shares and securities. Equity fund was a capital guaranteed product that is similar to a fixed deposit. Now, this is really bad, right? So a fixed deposit is definitely different from a equity fund, right? Equity fund was a capital guaranteed product. Even a fixed deposit, as I said earlier, is not guaranteed, right? Now, there are risks in which the banks may go under and you may lose your deposit, subject to the deposit insurance cover, right? So when you make statements like that to a retiree who is illiterate, right? Either linguistically, in terms of language, or in terms of financial, being illiterate. Then when you make statements like that, well, that's surely misleading, right? Not only misleading, is downright not honest, no integrity, and unethical, right? When you want to sell a product to an illiterate retiree, right, by misrepresenting the risks inherent in the products, right? So these are to sum up in terms of the KPI 4, right? So, well, I say I do not wish to belabor the point on the scenarios. You take some time and you will have a feel of what are the scenarios that will make the financial representative or the supervisor failing the balance scorecard grade, right? So it is not exhaustive, but it gives a good idea of the concerns of the MAS, right, in regard to financial advisor representatives and or supervisors churning the products, right? Just for commission, for sales commission, and without regard to whether the advice or the product recommended are suitable. Okay, I'm going to leave this one, the balanced scorecard framework. Now, very quickly now, we look at chapter 11. Now, this is chapter 11. It's a new chapter. And this new chapter 11 also gives you certain the guidelines. All right. So there are, of course, I've said earlier, there are notice provisions relating to the various topics in this particular chapter 11. All right. I just want to walk you through very quickly. All right. Now look at paragraph 2. These are the guidelines on the conflicts of interest arising from issuing or promulgating research analysis or research reports. All right. Now we have gone through this notice provision, so I do not propose to go into the detail. All right. Except that look at paragraph 2.2. All right. It applies to all licensed financial advisors and exempt financial advisors. So exempt financial advisors are also covered in this guidelines, this set of guidelines, okay? And then paragraph 2.3 talks about the examples of potential conflicts that may arise from issuing or promulgating research reports that contains underlying opinions or recommendations about clearly identifiable investment products. Now that's the key point under this notice as well as the guideline, okay? So when you issue reports, right, and contain opinions, as we said earlier, must be based on facts. All right, there must be some basis for the financial advisor to make that recommendation, to have that opinion in your research reports, all right? All right, so you cannot just pluck an opinion from thin air. So there must be some factual basis, right? Whereby you can say, look, this is my opinion and it's based on the following facts, based on the following assumptions. All right? At least the financial advisor is covered, right? When you make an opinion in the report. All right? So based on these assumptions, based on these facts that are available at that point in time, as a result, this is my opinion. Right? So if that is the case, then you cannot be faulted if the opinion turns out to be wrong. Right? Because circumstances, as I've said, do change over time. All right? But at the time when you formulate the opinion, I use the word formulate because you have some basis to do so. All right? And of course, if you are making a recommendation, that's even more serious, right? It is not your opinion, it is really your recommendation. All right? So on that basis, you're recommending and the products can be clearly identified. All right. If you do that in the report, then you need to be extra careful. All right. So there are standards and practices expected of financial advisors in dealing with such conflict of interest. All right. So just be a bit careful on that. I'll underline the word conflict of interest again. All right. The financial advisor or the financial institution may hold certain products, right? And you're giving opinion either to the public, to the investors, to the potential investors to buy or to sell those particular products that you have an interest in, then that would be a conflict of interest, and this needs to be disclosed, right? So there are standards and practices, right, under the notices which must be complied, and under the guidelines which must be followed or we should be followed. All right, and they refer you to Appendix 11A for this particular guideline, FAA G13. All right, so that is in terms of the conflict of interest guideline when you issue reports, right? When you issue research analysis. This is to make sure that everything is transparent and accountable and stuff like that, right? Ethical practices. Right? Now, then paragraph 3 there talks about the online distribution of life policies with no advice. Right? We have done that as well. So this is a pretty short guideline. There are, of course, some appendices after this chapter, which I will just run you through very quickly. Right? Now, for this particular guideline, we look at 3.3. The guideline sets out the safeguards The financial advisor should put in place when distributing life policies online without advice. All right, offer equivalent direct purchase insurance products. Right, it cannot be your own. If the others, well, they must be put online as well so that customers can compare. All right, provision of key information. We have done that earlier. Provision of tools and calculators. Yes. Handling of queries, complaints, and claims. We have done all that in the notice earlier. All right, and then of course you are asked to look at 11B. Appendix 11B under the MAS website. So very quickly, that's paragraph 3 under this particular chapter 11. Right, then paragraph 4 talks about the approval arrangements under regulation 32B. Right, now this is 32B, not paragraph 11 like we discussed earlier. Now this paragraph 32CB, or the financial advisors regulations under regulation 2 under guideline FAAG 16, right? We'll come to this a little bit later in appendix 11C, I think, yeah. All right. So these are the guidelines for another kind of arrangement, right? Okay, another kind of arrangement between a local entity and a foreign entity in relation to provision of financial advisory services. Right, this is similar to paragraph 11 that we have talked about earlier. Okay, then number 5, paragraph 5, the guidelines on the provision of digital advisory services. Right, again, we have done that, so highlight to you is paragraph 5.3. All right, so the licensing and the other relevant requirements to digital advisors. These are all digital advisors. So digitalization is a big thing now. Right? Digitalization is a big thing now. So one need to be careful on this one. So 5.3 talks about governance and supervision of algorithms. Right? Technology risk management, which we have done earlier. Right? The recovery time and all that stuff. Then protection of money laundering, prevention of money laundering, and so on. Disclosure of pertinent information to the device, right? Similar things. And the last point there, paragraph 6, is standard of conduct and distribution activities by the financial institution. All right, this relate to the financial institution marketing and distributing services other than at their registered place of business or their registered branches and offices, right? This is where the financial institutions market and distribute products at retailers and public places, right? Supermarkets, shopping malls, and so on, MRT stations, right? So the board and senior management are responsible for safeguards to be put in place to address market risks. Right? When the financial institutions, the financial advisors are marketing financial products and services to retail customers, right? Retail customers at retailer shops, right? And public places, right? So that covers it. Now, across the page there, you look at Appendix 11A. This is where the conflicts of interest are concerned. So again, the details are set out in paragraph 2. Right? So, well, I've spoken a lot about that one, so I do not want to belabor the point. Right? But just to emphasize one point that at the end of paragraph 2, maybe I read to you. For the avoidance of doubt, the examples of conflict of interest set out in these guidelines are illustrative and not exhaustive, right? So as I've said earlier, notices are maybe pretty hard to read. The regulations and the act is even harder, right? So therefore,